So, you're American? Well, there are some places that might not welcome you with open arms. It might come as a surprise, but not everywhere in the world rolls out the red carpet for U.S. citizens. Despite America's global popularity, some countries have a bit of a chilly reception for Americans. Before we dive into the 10 countries where Americans are not welcome in 2024, don't forget to hit the like button and help us reach our goal of 5,000 likes on this video. Now, let's get started. Number 10. Myanmar. First up is Myanmar. As of 2024, this Southeast Asian nation has a population of just under 55 million. Myanmar isn't exactly rolling out the welcome mat for Americans, largely due to recent history and ongoing events. Since the military coup in February 2021, the country has been mired in turmoil, with daily civil unrest and armed conflict. Americans considering a visit face a maze of visa applications and warnings. The U.S. government advises against travel to Myanmar due to these issues, including arbitrary enforcement of local laws and limited healthcare resources. Imagine needing a visa that takes at least 3 working days to process, only to arrive in a place where you're advised not to travel. Additionally, U.S.-imposed sanctions on Myanmar don't help in making American tourists feel welcome. Number 9. Yemen. Next is Yemen, with a population estimated at around 30 million. Yemen is another place where Americans might find a less than warm welcome. The country has been in a devastating conflict since 2015, resulting in a massive humanitarian crisis. For Americans, visiting Yemen comes with stern warnings about civil unrest, terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The U.S. State Department has issued a clear do not travel advisory. Getting a visa as an American is incredibly difficult due to Yemen's strict visa policies and instability, making casual tourism nearly impossible. Even if you manage to get in, the hostility towards Americans, due to perceived involvement in the conflict and drone strikes, makes it a less than ideal destination. Number 8. Somalia. Next up is Somalia, with a population of about 15 million people. For Americans, the reception here can be quite frosty, rooted in factors like political instability and security concerns. In May 2022, President Joe Biden approved the redeployment of U.S. soldiers to combat the al-Shabaab insurgents, a strategic move from a defense standpoint, but one that doesn't endear American tourists to the locals. The visa process is extremely stringent. Imagine trying to thread a needle while riding a roller coaster. Possible, but challenging. Hostilities range from bureaucratic red tape designed to make your stay difficult to outright security risks to your life. The situation is especially tough given the ongoing humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced and struggling for food, not exactly the backdrop for a warm welcome. Number 7. Venezuela. Venezuela, with a population of over 28 million people, is another tough spot for Americans. The relationship between the U.S. and Venezuela has been strained due to economic sanctions, political disputes, and general mistrust. As of August 2023, the economic crisis has driven over 7.7 million Venezuelans to leave the country, highlighting the dire circumstances many face. For Americans, the visa process is complex and navigating it feels like dealing with a system inherently skeptical, if not outright hostile, towards them. Once in the country, the high cost of living and tense atmosphere make daily life feel precarious. With around 23,000 U.S. citizens living mostly in the Caracas area, there is a community, but the overarching sense is of being unwelcome guests in a nation divided by politics and economic hardship. Number 6. Libya. Libya, with a population of about 7 million as of 2024, is a challenging destination for Americans. The U.S. Department of State has issued a do not travel advisory due to dangers such as crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The relationship between the U.S. and Libya took a significant hit after the 2012 attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi, leading to heightened security concerns. The visa process for Americans is stringent, and Libya's policy of not allowing entry to passports with Israeli stamps adds further complications. The combination of these factors makes Libya a particularly difficult and potentially dangerous destination for U.S. citizens. Number 5. Syria. Syria, a country with a rich culture and history, has been overshadowed by conflict in recent years. With its population grappling with the realities of civil war, Syria is another place where Americans might find the welcome mat rolled up. The U.S. has issued a Level 4 travel advisory for Syria, citing risks of terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The Syrian government's stance towards Americans is hostile, influenced by a complex geopolitical situation involving sanctions, military actions, and diplomatic standoffs. The visa process for Americans is extremely challenging, reflecting the strained relations between the two countries. Even if you manage to obtain a visa, the environment can be unwelcoming due to the ongoing conflict and general suspicion towards foreigners, particularly Americans, due to the U.S. involvement in regional politics. Number 4. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, with its population of about 38 million, has been a focal point of geopolitical tensions for decades. Americans are unlikely to receive a warm welcome here. The U.S. Department of State strongly advises against travel to Afghanistan due to terrorism, wrongful detention, kidnapping, and crime. The advisory is a stark warning, supported by a reality where multiple terrorist groups are active, and Americans are prime targets for kidnapping and wrongful detentions. Planning a trip here could put you on the radar of groups you've never even heard of. The visa process for Americans is extremely challenging. U.S. citizens must have a valid passport and Afghan visa to enter and exit. Arriving without a valid visa can result in deportation, confiscation of the passport, and heavy fines. Getting a visa on arrival is not an easy alternative either. It requires letters from the Ministry of Tourism or the Ministry of Information and Culture. Tourist visas are usually single entry, valid for 3 months with a 1-month authorized stay, making the process highly restrictive and daunting. Number 3. Iraq. Iraq, with a population of around 40 million, has had a rocky relationship with the United States, beginning with the 2003 U.S.-led invasion under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction. This history has made the situation between the two countries quite complicated. Americans often find themselves unwelcome in Iraq for several reasons. First, the visa process is notoriously challenging. While visas on arrival are available at airports, obtaining an exit stamp can be very difficult. The visa application process itself is lengthy, taking about 12 working days and requiring a valid passport. It feels more like "prove why we should let you in" than a warm welcome. Security concerns also contribute to the unwelcoming atmosphere. The situation in Iraq is precarious, with reports of government officials engaging in torture and other inhumane practices, alongside the presence of various armed groups. This creates an environment where stability is a significant concern, making Americans wary of traveling there. Number 2. Iran. Iran, with a population of around 83 million, is a country rich in ancient history and stunning landscapes, but it has complex relations with the United States. The chilly reception Americans might face traces back to the 1979 Iran hostage crisis, when Iranian students took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, leading to a 444-day standoff. The situation has remained tense, with the U.S. State Department issuing a Level 4 travel advisory for Iran, essentially advising travelers to think twice before visiting Tehran. The reasons for this caution are significant. There are risks of terrorism, civil unrest, and notably, the arbitrary arrest and detention of U.S. citizens. Americans, particularly those with dual nationality, may find themselves detained on charges like espionage or threatening national security. Securing a visa for Iran as an American is a challenging process. Expect to wait between 1 and 3 months for a response to your application, with additional delays at the embassy. Once you obtain the visa and arrive in Iran, you'll discover that international credit and debit cards are not accepted, so you'll need to carry cash and be prepared for some bartering. Despite these hurdles, Iran offers plenty to explore, from Tehran's bustling markets to the historic ruins of Persepolis. While the average Iranian may offer warm hospitality, navigating the political and geographic complexities of the country requires careful consideration. Number 1. North Korea. North Korea, officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, has a population of around 25 million. This country is like that reclusive neighbor who observes from the sidelines without joining in. The U.S.-North Korea relationship has been fraught with tension, marked by political conflicts, nuclear threats, and an ongoing war since the 1953 armistice. So why are Americans not exactly welcomed in North Korea? The U.S. government strongly advises against travel to North Korea due to severe risks, including arrest and long-term detention. The tragic case of Otto Warmbier, who fell into a coma and later died after being detained for allegedly trying to steal a propaganda poster, underscores the extreme dangers of visiting North Korea. Traveling to North Korea is exceptionally challenging. Since September 1, 2017, the U.S. has banned its citizens from using their passports to enter North Korea except under very specific circumstances, effectively placing a "Do Not Enter" sign for American tourists. Even before this ban, obtaining a visa was notoriously difficult, requiring a specialized travel agency and participation in a tightly controlled tour group with a guide who ensures strict adherence to rules. If you manage to get in, the experience is tightly regulated. Strict rules govern what you can do, see, or photograph. Interacting with locals without permission is illegal, and making any negative remarks about the leadership or the country can lead to severe consequences. The level of control in North Korea can be hard for Americans to grasp, especially when coming from a country where freedom of speech and movement are norms. In summary, visiting North Korea as an American is akin to walking on eggshells while blindfolded. The stringent visa process, the potential for misunderstanding leading to detention, and the pervasive surveillance create a highly challenging environment. The allure of the forbidden might be tempting, but remember that in North Korea, curiosity can come with high risks.